Hey, I'm Pastor Caleb, and I'm here with AJ Currado, and we are talking about our art installation for this year's Christmas series, Love Incarnate. And we're going to be talking a little bit about this stained glass that's in our sanctuary right now. And AJ, I wanted you to share a little bit about how you came up with the idea, sort of the media idea of creating stained glass in a warehouse in our church. So how did you guys come up with the idea? What are some of the materials you used?
Well, we really wanted to I've been really impressed by seeing stained glass in various cathedrals and places that I've been, churches, and just the amazing amount of time that you can spend looking at them and getting really rich imagery of just so many biblical stories and how they would just build on each other, and the light coming through and the way that the light changes. And there's just so much symbolism, and it's just so beautiful. And it's just something that has lasted through centuries. And so I really wanted to do a stained glass series and have everybody's input and just see where that went with everybody. So these were actually, so the idea was to do a stained glass theme, and then we talked about different ways that we could do it. And then just like Micah, my husband, was like, you have to have it backlit. And everybody I talked about, Jen was like, you have to have it backlit. Like everybody was like, you have to have the light actually there and not just totally faux. So we actually had these panels in our backyard for years that we had used for a project, and then switched it up and then just had them in storage basically. So they were just the right kind of thing, really lightweight, translucent. And so we thought, well, let's give that a try. And then I experimented with some different media on it and found acrylic paint that worked with a medium to thin it out. So some technical background worked well to know to make sure it wouldn't peel off, things like that. And then, so just figuring out how to put all those pieces together that way and make it work.
I also want you to share a little bit about just your passion for this being a bigger project than just you, or just you and Jen, but you wanted to incorporate as many people as possible into it. Share with us a little bit about why.
Well, I think that there's so many, creativity I think is just so important. It's such a God-given thing that he has creativity in everybody in some way. That's a way that we show being created in his image is that piece of creativity. And it shows up differently in different people. Some people are better at drawing or drafting, like design work or color work, or I think there's just so many different ways of being creative. And I want every year with the art projects to get more and more collaborative and to reach more people and to expand beyond just like what I can do, but to get as many people in the church be able to take part of that and be able to have some way to express their creativity. So I thought the stained glass would work really well, because then you can have like a little chunk of it that you can do. So it's kind of easy to bring somebody in at a variety of levels. And so we had a lot of people doing just anything from even painting the black on it, which was just like, okay, I can't really do anything, but yes, I want to help. So yeah, I can paint a black line. Sure, no problem. And then other people were like, oh yeah, I want just very skilled artists to be able to fill in things and to do it a little differently. So I love getting just more people involved and being able to participate, because we're the body of Christ.
Right. And one of the things I love about this installation is it represents so many different people and so many different hours.
Yeah.
Right. A bunch of people, different people coming in at different times, putting in hard work, just so that people can worship God. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point with everything he gives us, is to direct eyes towards the Lord. And one of the cool things about creativity when it's done right is that's what it does. It defers glory. It focuses the heart, focuses the mind on the Lord. And you see that a lot in sacred art, what you guys represented with the stained glass. So share with me a little bit about the symbolism of this piece. What are the different parts of it represent?
So the main idea in the center panel is there's kind of like a starry heaven above, and then royal purple and reds, just to represent like Christ's royalty. And then there's a heart symbol around, which is carried through like the sleeve of Joseph to help get that point of the heart. And it's done in red, so it's like a ruby, so kind of a gem as well. So loving the Lord with all your heart. And just the love that those parents would have, over this baby Christ. And then on the side, there were kind of matching symbols as well, as sort of like a heavenly and an earthly ideas of some symbols that would represent like names or aspects, characteristics of Jesus. So he has a royal crown here, as well as the crown of thorns there. He's the Lion of Judah. He is the Lamb, our perfect Lamb and sacrifice. He is the light and the light of God to the world. He's a new covenant. This is a loaf and a cup. The rose of Sharon, and there's an olive branch over here that would show just as peace, our Prince of Peace. Our shield and the sword is like he's kind of referencing. Well, I've been thinking a lot of the armor of God because I'm talking about that in one. But he's also the word of and kind of a sword, and the Alpha and the Omega there as well. So looking at all of these pieces of his earthly ministry as well as his second coming, kind of the whole picture.
So one of our hopes is that as we do this and we do these videos and people see it, they'll be inspired. That you'll be inspired to think about this, to meditate on these things, maybe even create something of your own. Yeah. I've already had people come in and say, I was thinking about this and I wrote this poem.
That's awesome, yeah.
And so I love how art evokes art. And one of the things that's to happen is our worship is meant to evoke other people to worship. Worship it's multi-directional. Because we're focusing on God, but it's also an invitation to join us. Yeah. And so one of the things I love about this is the project's got a little bit bigger every single year. They definitely did. So first year we had our halls just lined, and people were, as they walked into our Christmas Eve service, it was to prepare your heart and just meditate on these different works. And then last year we did a gradual rollout where each week we added to it. And then this year we have the stained glass, and then we also have different representations that are going up. So we have sort of a rollout, but what I like about it this year is that because it's in the worship center, people can sit there and they can look while I'm preaching. And that might sound weird to people that I want people looking at pictures while I'm preaching, but I actually understand because I'm a visual person, it helps.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. And then I just hope that everyone is looking at them and remembering the sermon, being like, oh, that's just like that one sermon, and being able to connect the pieces because they were definitely done with that in mind. And just to kind of build on it and to refresh memories. And I think that's something else that's kind of interesting about doing it as as collaborative as possible, is because the process of making the work just becomes such a community body thing, and that we're all interacting in a really healthy way and spiritually encouraging each other, praying over the project together a lot, and just that you can have experience artists getting together with great humility, but also helping each other to do better work. Yeah. And the feedback and everything. It was just a nice little microcosm of the way the body is supposed to work. Yeah. The collaboration is bigger than just the art. I get together with a group of guys that I'm going to be team teaching through the series for December, and we write down all of our thoughts in a Google Doc, and then we share that with you. Yeah. And then you guys look through all of our notes, and you're looking at the passages that we're looking at, and then you're looking for inspiration in God's Word as you create these. And so as you look at them and you hear the messages, those messages are what inspired this art, in their bare bones. Sometimes it becomes more nuanced and focused. But even the music that we're doing, Les and I sit down and we talk through the entire series, and we talk through what songs best represent this. And then we want all that music to be reflected there. And so that's something I'm passionate about, is that everything that we're doing, it's focusing on one common message, that we're meditating on that as a community. And as we meditate on that, we come to comprehend the glory of the Lord is multifaceted, because he takes all these different body parts and he uses them all gloriously. Yeah. And here's one of the things where I think that you can go off if you start to become too creative with your worship, where it's a distraction. It becomes more about what you're creating than about focusing. And that's really what you see happening with Aaron's sons. With Nadab and Abihu, when they go and they offer strange fire before God, what they want is attention. What they want is, they're doing that because they want to be noticed, and God has given specific directions for how he is to be worshipped. Right. And so that's one of the reasons I don't have you guys actually like painting it live in the worship center. We sing and we preach, but then the church has always had sacred art. It's always had those representations in its hallways. And
one of the things that if you study the history of sacred art is you see that people are extremely creative as they come up with different ways. Like think about the very first person to come up with a stained glass window.
Yeah.
Like there was the first person who did that, right? We're probably the first people to do it this way, right?
Yeah,
Nobody's ever
different.
looked at a board that you like put on the roof of your patio and said, I want to paint that and shine light through it, right?
Right.
But we have, and God is glorified as we reflect him in our creativity.
Yeah.
That's something he's given to us.
Yeah. It's cool.
So I appreciate you overseeing this. And if this inspires you and you want to be a part of this in the future, talk to AJ.
Definitely.
She helps coordinate this. AJ and Jen together put this together. They coordinate this. Lots of man hours. I talked to Jen and I said 160. She said probably more than 160 man hours for just the first two.
Yeah.
And there's more, like right now, people are working in our church on different pieces of art. So thank you guys so much for using what God's given you for his glory.
It's our joy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening.